Good afternoon, Richland College. Good afternoon, Richland College. Welcome back. It is a wonky, funny, last-second Philosophy Club radio hour here. It's Friday afternoon, almost 5 o'clock, harkening back to the very first episode, or season rather, of the show. And who do I have with me? Who was I able to wrangle up at the last possible second? Who do we got here?
Hi, I'm Haya. I said my real name this time.
Oh, wow. It's funny. Jack said to me, he was like, yeah, there's somebody listening to the one of your live broadcasts last semester, and she asked me later, like, how come they never say their real names? Is it a dangerous thing? Like, do they not want to reveal who they are?
It's funny. We all know who each other are, and everybody knows everybody on campus. It's just funny to take on a new alias every now and then.
Yeah.
Be someone you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Or even a new alias.
Alias?
Alias. It should be Elias, because you think of something like alignment.
Alibi.
Oh, yes. It's not alibi.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right, cool. So, everybody, welcome. Thanks for listening. You are listening to KDOX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We're the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on this show are our own, unless otherwise stated, and do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. All right, folks. I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm not sure which mic you are, so I have them all turned on. Oh, okay, your mic too. That's the one that's on the least. Anyways, yeah, so let's get into this. Interesting topic. Regulating lifestyles, I think, is the ultimate sort of broadest way to put it. But I think y'all had something in mind. It was like, should healthy lifestyles be mandated?
It was like, should laws that mandate healthy lifestyles be allowed?
Yeah, that's an interesting topic on a number of levels. Primarily, I think at least, there's this issue of, well, how much autonomy should you have? I mean, how much of your life should you be allowed to dictate, especially if the majority of your life is not to your benefit, that you seem to be working against your best interests? And I guess we could start initially here by discussing, health related things. I think that was the... Oh, wait, it's time for the requack.
Oh, well,
Yes. I believe the initial responses were about... I'm sorry, I'm trying not to... It then just looks like I'm talking to myself, which is usually how it feels.
if I just cover my face, it'll be like I'm a ghost.
Yeah, maybe I'll look at you like this somehow. I think the first, I would say 10, 15 minutes had to do with specifically dietary regulations. Was that how it went? About
Yeah.
People overeating, and then maybe getting litigious towards like McDonald's or something like that. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this? Do tell.
We were actually discussing at the start of it, comparing what lifestyle is in Japan, like, how it's illegal to be fat in Japan, I think. And like, if you are fat or overweight, they send, if after your like health checkup, they send you to a sort of camp. It's government mandated, so you have to get below a certain level of weight to be considered healthy. So what we were thinking, in a country like America, where fast foods and fat foods are so easily acquirable, it just seems, and how much people actually enjoyed that, it just seems a bit cruel to mandate a law that would stop people from eating what they want.
Oh yeah, that's right. Also, I have now officially turned up the volume on the headphones knob, so now I can hear much better. That would explain it. Yeah, I think you're right on that. Specifically, when you talk about ruining people's enjoyment, because again, who doesn't like to eat a lot, of course, but more specifically than that, at what point do you as an individual draw the line? And it seems like, it's interesting to bring up Japan. It seems like, in more of a primacy of rights-based kind of nation, the individual's autonomy is what's primary. It's what's most important. It's what takes precedence. And I'm just not so sure that everybody globally sees it that way, specifically if they're raised in contexts where individual autonomy is not promoted, or at the very least is promoted, but maybe not to such a strong extent. And so this idea of healthy mandated lifestyle regulations, it's less about making sure everybody gets their nutrients who can't maybe afford it, and more about eat your nutrients because you're not able to control yourself.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's what it just seems like. But you have to understand that the idea of mandated laws, especially healthy lifestyles, is so that every person is equally healthy and have an equal lifestyle. But and somebody brought up a good point that
Probably me.
not everybody can bring up have healthy lifestyles because they can't afford the food. Like most college students can't afford normal vegetables. What they can afford is cup noodles because those are like 99 cents.
So
less.
delicious.
And those are absolutely not healthy for you. But that doesn't, and that's the problem with mandated health laws, especially in terms of diet, is that not everybody can just conform to them, especially like if you can't afford it or if you can't help yourself, like stress eating.
Okay, yeah. And so for a number of reasons, you can justify it,
Yeah.
it seems like. But then consider the perspective of the individual. I mean, consider the autonomous individual here. This is so funny because if I turn to look at you, because we're in the same studio here, we're in the same room, then the back of my head is to the camera. So I got to like look at you like this, like through the monitor here.
Yeah, and then I look at the back of your head.
Exactly. Then you're staring at the back of my head.
Or I could just look at the glass.
I would take my glasses right now and put them behind me so it looks like a face, but the lens is being glued together. And once again, thank you for gluing it together at the last Philosophy Club meeting.
Haphazard work.
And I think it might pop out if I mess with it in any way. So we'll just, it's like, I'm like your cabbie. I'm like your Uber driver. I'm talking to you, looking at you through the rearview mirror. Welcome to Taxi Cab Confessions with Professor Manzi. Anyways, yeah, so let's dig a bit deeper into this idea of, well, I am entitled to certain rights, one of them being something like a right to privacy, but especially the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I could say, well, my happiness involves me eating whatever I want, whenever I want.
But see, what I've been learning this in government is that everybody has natural rights, life, liberty, and property. And any political community has its priority is to take care of its citizens, to make sure that they can self-govern themselves with their rational faculties.
Oh, that's true.
But see, there's also this case that my professor was making was that if the people are doing something that is not good for them, the political community has the right to overturn this, do something for their own good. But the people also have the right to overturn the political community if it's doing something wrong. See, everybody has the liberty of choosing, but if you're making laws that aren't so strict as you can't eat this anymore, then that is cruel. But if you have laws that are good for you, like tobacco law, that's good for you, right? If you have a law against tobacco, or at least it says that there should be warning labels on tobacco boxes and stuff like that. That's fine. That's perfectly okay. It's for the people. But if you have laws saying that you can't eat this because it's bad for you, but it also might be good for a certain amount of people because it's like a medicine, then that's wrong.
All right, but why is it wrong, I wonder?
Because you see, like the example of marijuana, it's
what's that?
it's a drug. It's drugs. Basically, it's good for some people like who have strokes often or have seizures or fits. If they have a small dosage of marijuana or cannabis oil, it actually helps them.
Wait, you mean like people who are on crew teams?
What is that?
They stroke often.
Oh, okay.
Stroke.
Oh,
Stroke. Dun 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 dun. It might be late, it might be last second, it might be just the two of us, but boy, we're on fire.
No, we're not. You literally sunk the boat.
Take flight, my Thunder Ducks. Take flight.
Shot the duck in the link. Okay.
Look, by the way, just real quick here, take a look. You can see here on the monitor, philosophy promo. So the ads for our philosophy club and the philosophy club radio hour. That's the title of the show, right? That's look, they play every half hour, and this one's in the queue here. Take a look at this, y'all. does that say? Promo. Because we some pros.
So what are you doing?
What am I doing? That's dead air.
Okay. I'll continue with my point about marijuana.
Just letting people know we got some promos. Keep a lookout here on the
Okay.
radio. I recorded one take Jake over here recorded a promo, and it's been polished up and slicked and nice and produced, and I'm looking at it right here in the queue. It's a nice feeling. So I'm sorry, you're saying something philosophical.
Of course. So you know how some seizure victims or fits, people who have fits are, and especially epilepsy, if they have cannabis oil, it helps them relax their brains. But the problem is actually marijuana isn't good for people who don't have these symptoms. It's not as bad as alcohol or tobacco comparatively, but it's still bad. So the thing is, it should be legal for medicinal purposes, but the idea of which comes from marijuana, it's become bad for people because it causes withdrawal symptoms. It's not good for them. They become habituated to it, and it's just the mindset against it that makes it so dangerous.
Okay, no, and very interesting points here. By the way, you want to meet again at 6:35 or 75? Huh? Give me 5 stars. No, I'm joking. Uber driver Jeff here. I did drive an Uber for one night. It was a lot of fun. I wanted the experience. It was pretty interesting.
That's a good idea.
It was a lot of drunken SMU students. Is what it was. At any rate,
question: what was the weirdest thing that ever happened that day?
Oh gosh, that's a story. My very first customer. I was nervous. I picked this guy up outside of Gold's Gym over on McKinney Avenue, Uptown. And he was like, I'm a truck driver. I just moved here today. And I met a nice woman, and she told me to meet her at this bar. So basically, he asked me to bring him to a Walmart so he can get a fresh shirt. And then that Walmart, so I brought him to another Walmart. And then I drove him all the way out to this place. It was like a nightclub, like a cabaret kind of thing. Not a rather interesting kinds of place. And this guy had his backpack. He just threw his backpack under somebody else's car and just went to meet this strange woman. He was telling me he was married. It was and I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like, this guy I had to drive this guy. Yeah, it was scary a little bit.
You're producing questions. You're like, you're not getting answers.
And so long story short, I returned back to Uptown, and then the rest was just, SMU students being like, oh my gosh, it's Friday.
Let's go get drunk.
And I'd sit there and make my little jokes from the driver's seat, and it was basically, they would just stop and be like, why is the Uber driver talking to us right now?
You realize that this wasn't meant to be.
He doesn't understand. We're not his friends. So that was pretty strange. But back to your point here, and you're right. The question of medicine and drugs, prescription drugs, recreational drugs, that kind of came up too as an example of regulatory behavior, because again, illegalizing certain drugs is it's telling you, when I say it, the federal government is regulating your freedom, your possibility there. And of course, again, the justification for that is something along the lines of, dietary restriction justifications, which is, we're doing this for your own good. Mm-hmm. We're protecting you in this way. We're making sure that you don't abuse your rights because, clearly it seems like maybe there's a responsibility and accountability issue with regards to your own agency, with your own individual inclinations and maybe bad habits and stuff like that. But that begs the question here. When we talk about a rights first kind of arrangement you have here in a place like America, the individual's autonomy is what is absolutely paramount. And, this begs the question, well, to what extent? To what extent are you making a claim on your society? Which is to say, I'm entitled to certain rights, they're inalienable, I'm born with them, and no matter what, you are obligated to uphold my rights, and I'm not necessarily obligated to do much in return outside of, not becoming a criminal. But my freedom to live the way I want to live, so long as it's not hurting other people, that shouldn't be up to you. If I want to eat, anchovy pizza 5 nights a week, why should you step in? I mean, what right do you have? What right does a society have on its citizens if that society, much like here in America, claims to be one that protects and promotes and encourages the autonomy of the individual?
That's not a bad question.
Yeah, I think it's one that kind of naturally arises from these considerations.
But see, like I told you earlier, most of the time,
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Okay. Most of the time, if you have a society, or let's just take a small example of a family, right? And you have the head of the family, it could be father or the mother, and you have the head of the family who is in charge of taking care of the family. His or her decisions are for the best for the family, right? If my mom tells me or my dad tells me to not drink soda because it's not good for me, I will oblige and I will listen to these rules because I know she's doing it for the best of me, right?
So you trust then? You trust in the authority?
Yeah, you have to trust the authority to be able to agree to these. Now, if you take the example of America and take the example of France, right? Now you have America who has they don't want to trust. They don't. It's clearly that America does not trust their government. It's been like this since the imperial age.
Wait, do you mean France, like France, Texas? Like there's Italy, Texas?
No, there's France as in the country.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So America does not trust its government. It's clear. It's been like that for ages, and it's very rare to have people who trust the government. But you have.
Oh, the phones are lighting up. You heard it here first. Americans hate their government, according to Haya.
And let's take the terms of food, right, and how the food industry works. So.
Okay.
You have governments you have the government who tells you have to label foods. You have to tell them what it has, what it doesn't have, right? It's what the FDR does, right? And then you have these McDonald's.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt. FDR?
I don't know what the food department.
The food division restaurants.
No, that's not it. Okay, let's just move on. I don't know. I'm new to America.
Federal Dietary Reserves.
Okay. So now okay, it looks.
The F is for Philosophia.
No, it's not.
Okay.
So you have these restaurants and food joints that they give burgers for $1, right? They promote burgers for $1, and you have these factories that inhumanly kill cows, like they're not even animals, and nothing goes for like cleanliness or hygiene. You just fill it with chemicals, right?
My name's Jeff.
Okay.
Hi, Haya.
Hi.
Not hygiene.
Okay, so then why are you
just
laughing?
leaves.
So then you have France, right? Let's take the example of lunch times for America, right? What do you get?
One example at a time here. I'm trying to keep up.
I'm sorry. I'm just giving an example of restaurants and how the food industry works.
Yeah, so health code standards. You ever read The Jungle by Upton Sinclair? It's about that.
I've heard of Upton Sinclair. My professor told me to read it. Anyways.
What Upton?
God. So you have
Sin.
What did you get for your lunchtime in school when you were in middle school or high school?
Well, that was back in the 30s.
Yeah.
So we got a single cigarette and a cup of black coffee and some
30s?
Spam. I was joking. That's a good question. I never really got hot lunch, I think is what we called it. I would brown bag it. My mommy would make my sandwiches, and that's what I would eat.
That was good. But, like, I would hear
a lot of olive loaf, pimento loaf, bologna.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would hear from my middle school my cousin. She would literally tell me that they would get like mystery meat soup or mush in a tray with a box of chocolate milk that was not way past, but nearing its expiry date, and a lot of questionable choices were
mush?
There. Yeah, mush, just mush. And then
is this in the Antarctic? Mush.
No, mush.
Oh, I just screamed into the level. Sorry.
That was, that's more of an Eskimo thing, right?
What's an Eskimo?
Okay, guys, let's move on to France.
Somebody who likes to ski? Ski-mo.
In France.
Give me something, Haya. Oh, wait. Uche had a point. Yes, Uche. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. That was Gabby. Oh, wait. That was Julio. Oh, wait.
John. That was John.
Oh, I let him go. Anyways, you're saying.
Okay, so you have France in comparison, which they have actually government sanctioned chefs who make these foods and decide upon that week's lunch is going to be
Really?
by meeting all the teachers. Okay, it's gonna be this for this weekend. It's gonna be this for this weekend. Every day they have like a small tray of cheese that goes around to make sure everybody have them. They have to have a nutritionist in the meetings to make sure that the kids are getting the proper nutrition, and there has to be water instead of milk.
And so you think that's a good example of regulatory?
Yeah,
Okay.
that is a good example because you're doing it the right way. Instead of banning something, you're promoting health. You're promoting food
Okay.
like that. If America promotes food like McDonald's, KFC, which is not healthy because it's not good food and it's super cheap. So what do the poor people do? They get the super cheap food. What do the rich people do? They get the rich food, which is much better.
Ironically, poor people end up eating rich food.
What do you mean?
Rich food that's rich. It's creamy and it's cheesy and
Oh
it's
my
not good
God.
for you. So I think that's what you're saying.
I when I mean rich food.
No, I
mean,
see. I hear what you're saying. I know what you mean.
Okay.
But here's the thing, though that makes sense if you're talking about children, growing children whose bodies are still changing and they
Yeah.
need nutrients. What about grown-ups? I mean, if somebody came over to me and said, "Listen, new rules passed. You're only allowed to have 3 chili cheese dogs a week."
No, see.
I'd say, "Excuse you, sir."
No, because like at
Or
that
ma'am.
point, my business law professor was saying that the only thing that is saves themselves from law, or at least the law has to ignore, are children, and also has to protect the most.
The law has to ignore?
If a kid ends up in the middle of a crime, they can't do anything to it. But if something happens
To
with a
it?
kid, gosh, please forgive me. And if the law has to protect the child at all levels, right? But once you become an adult, everything is your choice. You literally can't do anything before you're an adult.
That's fair. And
But
so,
that's what I'm saying is that you can choose to eat all those chili dogs. Right, chili dogs, right? What are chili dogs? by the way?
oh, if you haven't tried it, you're in for a treat. I don't eat meat, so mine are vegetarian chili dogs.
Let me guess, tofu.
I don't know what they're made out of.
Oh my gosh.
And the cheese is with cashew. It's cashew
Ew.
cheese, I want to say. It's really good. It's creamy.
Ca-
It's very rich.
cashew cheese.
Yes. That's actually my MC name. MC Cashew Cheese. Anyways,
Wow.
we're losing the current as if we ever had it. I think I think here's something that we should consider, that when you're an adult, you are entitled. Okay, so we'll transition back to America then, building on your comparison here. When you're an adult in America, when you're a citizen in general, you are entitled to certain rights. You make claims on your society, on your government. So, do you know your rights, kind of thing. All human beings have a right to live, you might say. And so, again, you have a right to eat. This is why we have things like welfare and food stamps. Even if you were unable on an individual level to be able to afford sustenance for yourself, you have a right to life, as well as liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And so the government, your society, makes sure you stay alive by giving you food stamps that can only be cashed in on food, which is to say nutrients, which you need to survive. Whether you want it or not, you get it. So there is this idea that at a certain point, the government steps in and regulates your behavior to this degree, because it's clearly in your best interest. Because if they didn't, who knows what might become of you and whatever kids you may have. Now, are there people who exploit those rights? Of course.
How would you exploit these type of rights?
I don't know. I would say, specifically, I think it would come along the lines of finding ways to, I don't know. Well, okay, here's an example. People collect their welfare checks, but then they still have jobs under the table that they don't cover. Things along these lines.
See, but then that's a criminal act, right?
Exactly. And yet,
But in terms of regulatory lifestyles, how would you exploit them?
Well, here's the thing. I think the better question is not better. The question I'm more prepared to answer is this: is it not the government exploiting the individual when the government of a rights-based primacy of rights society steps in and says, "Hey, you're free here. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You're an individual. You're autonomous. You have your rights. We are here to honor your rights, but we're going to step in and tell you this, that, and the other thing."
Okay.
Because that's kind of because that's what laws are.
Yeah, you're right. I see what you're saying. But like, when you have laws, adults more often tend to rebel against it more than kids because they know they can. But if you don't have laws, rather you have not suggestions, more promotions. Like you would promote better food. You would have laws that would help people, like, educate people on what good food is, promote better, better standard of living. You would have people who could afford having a better lifestyle instead of having laws to, you can't eat this many chili dogs. You can't use McDonald's for more than once a week. Cup noodles are banned forever. Like Kinder eggs. Like, why would you ban Kinder eggs? Because kids are dumb enough to eat the Kinder egg.
Oh boy, kids are dumb. You heard it here first. Philosophy Club Radio Hour. Phones are lighting up. Should we take a call? That's a good approach to it. It might be difficult to execute.
Yeah, it would take years just to have a healthy lifestyle. But that's what most countries are based on now. France, Japan. Although I have to tell you that most of the Asian countries, let's say East Asian countries, it's not so much about health as it's about appearance.
What do you mean?
Like, I love East Asian countries, and it's my goal to learn, like, Japanese, Chinese, Cantonese, by the way. And
why?
And Korean, just because I feel more comfortable speaking in that language than in Arabic, surprisingly.
Huh.
Yeah, even though 17 years spent in Saudi Arabia. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, you know what I just thought of, though, Haya? And this is so funny. I wish I thought of this before the show began. I should have introduced this as, like, a get to know your student officers piece.
You're right.
And, like, I'm sitting down one-on-one here with Haya. What's your last name?
Kazi.
I know. I know. We're getting to know her better. Why would you rather speak Cantonese? Welcome back to a secret episode of the Philosophy Club Radio Hour.
I don't know. It's
better know an officer. I'm sorry.
I feel like I respect their culture, like their history a lot. I respect their evolution of their language. Random fact: you can recognize which language is written because when you see Korean, you see that they have a lot more circles than other languages. When you see Chinese, it's like complicated pictures. Their letters are complicated pictures. And Japanese is kind of the same, except in between those complicated pictures, they're like simpler and cuter little alphabets.
Well, you heard it here first. She ranked her languages. Japanese, you get number 1. Sorry, Cantonese, you guys apparently aren't capable of doing more than drawing circles.
No,
according to Haya.
Korean.
Oh, okay. Korean. I'm sorry. Clearly, I'm listening closely.
Not circles. It just has circle incorporated. Anyways, I have a point with this.
Okay.
So, you see, the culture
not a circle, a point.
The culture is built upon the fact that they need to be thin, right? So Japanese people, surprisingly, are a lot more natural with their process in the sense that they'd rather work out and wear makeup than having to get plastic surgery. And I was watching this documentary on BBC, I suppose, which talked about the Korean plastic surgeons.
It's the DCCCD, but yeah.
Yeah, BBC. So anyways, they would rank how most Asian people want their face to be restructured. So Korean people would want their nose to be thinner, their face to be thinner, to extra body fat to be removed, and their eyes to be bigger. Japanese people would want more slight changes. Like they would rather, instead of having a monolid, they would have a double eyelid. Like, you know how you have a fold in your eyelid? That type of changes. And Chinese people would change their appearance entirely, become thinner, slimmer faces.
This is on the BBC?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the actual one. It either is BBC or Al Jazeera. Anyways, so their entire...
So the BBC or Saturday Night Live.
their entire culture is based upon being thin. You wouldn't, and that's why it's not very often you would see someone from any of these 3 countries who is extremely who is overweight, I'd say.
It's like the opposite of my culture. Shout out Italians.
Yeah, because America has a who respects people who are overweight. You have a culture that promotes being overweight, right? It's not about the beauty on the outside; it's about what's inside, right? And curves are better. Yawn. So
Yawn. Yawn.
Yeah, it was an aw or a yawn.
I don't know. It all blends the same.
Okay, so you get what I'm
It
saying.
all blends the same. What does that even mean? Yeah, I do get what you're saying. Let me throw this at you though, real quick. Okay, say for instance. Okay, so here's how I'm trying to think of an example of where they maybe they conflict here. So let's say for instance you find yourself again on welfare or you need food stamps for whatever reason. And so society, the way we're organized here, the government steps in and says, "Here, you qualify for this. We're stepping into your life here and making it our business to make sure you get fed." But this is also, you have the right to religious liberty here in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if the food stamps only apply to kinds of foods that you're not religiously able to eat?
Oh.
So
okay,
so now it's like the government's forcing you to make a decision?
But
Or
see,
you know what I mean? Like, do you see how it could get a little murky?
it does. It does. But see, the government also has laws that should make amends for these, right? You would have
Should make a menu.
yay! Please stop. But the government can't sanction food
Just in general.
stamps that would promote one or demote one religion. It's not. It's against the law. It's unconstitutional.
Yes, no, and I think that's true. But that's just a quick example. I don't know the intricacies of food stamp or EBT laws, but that would be something along the lines of, well, okay, it's my individual autonomy at stake here.
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. Steak. Hey, I don't think you can get that at food stamp, so I don't know. The point being is this: at what point does the government, in the better interest, in the best interest of its society as a whole, at what point does it justifiably intervene with your individual autonomy? Now, obvious examples are when you begin to act like a criminal, when it's clear that you are a net loss in terms of harming people, and potentially even if you are considering inflicting harm on yourself, stuff like that. The government steps in. At what point, other than criminal activity, do you feel like they should be able to step in? And it seems like, well, in these instances, if you are so clearly, harming yourself, this is the question. Should there be sort of a regulated, mandated kind of menu, like prescribed menu? Because how's that any different from going to the doctor and he gives you a prescribed medication menu, so to speak? Take this twice and call me in the morning.
What about human euthanasia? You government mandate
How young are we talking here?
You can say
No, the euthanasia.
at adult age. You'd say right after 18, where you can make your own decisions. Right, if you're suffering from a terminal disease or a painful life, like not just mentally but physically, you're suffering through a disease that literally causes you pain. If you're an adult, are you government allowed to make the decision that you would end your life at this point because you cannot recover or it's too painful to continue?
Oh, okay.
And if it's not allowed, but if it's unlawful to do something like this, then what about people who kill themselves and they survive? Are they criminal?
Yeah, and I think this came up, as a matter of fact. We can go ahead and conclude the requack since we're going to be done in like 5 minutes. But that came up, the idea of a physician-assisted suicide. Why is that illegal in some states? Because the government's role is to serve you, not hinder you, and ending your life seems to be the ultimate hindrance. You can't pursue life, liberty, and happiness if you're dead. Yeah. And yet, should it be your right because it's your life? Mm-hmm. Or are you obliged to give back to society in some way? And that might include, getting on board for a common good, let's all eat healthy sort of mandated lifestyle. It becomes tricky because as you said earlier, health codes themselves change, and there's new food technology, so to speak, that's coming about, and
Synthetic meat.
yeah, okay, something like that. Yeah, synthetic meat, something along these lines.
Would you eat synthetic meat?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I look forward to the day where I can do that.
Where you can eat bacon.
Yes, when I can eat bacon. Well, I'm one of those people who, again, I'm one of those dudes where I'm pescatarian, but I eat a lot of the same foods I always have. They're just not meat. And there are a lot of places here in Dallas, a big metropolitan city in America, where you can do something like that. Shout out V Eats, shout out Spiral Diner, places like this, where, again, you could get a chili cheese dog, but it's all vegan, and you come to see, wow, the spices really are what make it, more so than if you can replicate the texture, that's good. But point being is this, we're getting away from it here. If somebody says, okay, wow, this steak and cheese sandwich is completely healthy for me, but it tastes like the thing I really like, but I still want the real thing, aren't they in their rights? Like how, no pun intended. Like how would we see this kind of regulatory system, well, systematically applied? Like, do you have to? And this came up as well. Like, are we to have like weigh-ins? Like, are you supposed to go to the doctor and get a physical every month and say, okay, well, looks like your cholesterol's high, so you're not allowed to eat this for 2 weeks? Like, does that seem like a free and liberty sort of state? I mean,
no, but see, it's still, at the end of the day, it is for your good. You can skip your like monthly checkup. Government isn't gonna mandate it, right? But it could be like a tax thing, right? Right. If you, like, when you take a loan from the bank, right, and the bank wants to know your health, like, they want to make sure that you are in proper health, so you can give back the money
for life insurance as well, health insurance.
Yeah. So if you at least maybe if it was for kids, my mom would take me in Saudi Arabia. She would take me to the hospital every month to make sure my vaccines were caught up. I was at good weight, and they do that at schools too, right?
Yeah.
So it could be a thing for adults that if you don't do it, if you miss your monthly health checkup more than 4 times or 5 times, you will get like a mark on your tax. You pay more tax or something like that. Because at the end of the day, if you have a government sanctioned health insurance, right?
Oh, okay.
So if you miss your checkup 5 times and you've discovered like the 6th time that you have cancer, which could have been prevented 5 months ago, that would cost the government more to take care of you. So but
that's what the government's for, right?
Yeah, but then at the end of the day, it's also your responsibility because the government is doing this for you. If you keep up with it, it's better for you because it's not going to cost anything.
But that implies that, again, you are not the ultimate authority on how you should want to live.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, your life is your life, your choices. But at the end of the day, there must be some laws that would promote your life better. It's for you. It's not for the government to help better.
Is it? But it's supposed to be maybe. And I'm just playing, devil's advocate here. It's for you to choose.
Yeah, you could choose it, but.
But can you? If it's mandated, if it's regulated, you don't have a choice. That's the whole issue. It seems.
The daily checkup is not so much as a problem. That if you do go to it, and you discover that you have this disease, you can pursue the treatment for it, or you could not. It's your choice.
Okay.
That's a good way. If you find that your cholesterol level is like high, you can pursue to stop eating cholesterol, but it isn't your choice. It's just for you to be aware of these things.
Well, okay, then that's different. That's more of an informational kind of thing than it is.
It's not like if we go to the doctor and the doctor is like, oh my gosh, you have a cavity in your teeth, pay $100 to go to the dentist right now. So
you have in mind something far less punitive.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
It really isn't so much as the government forces you to take care of yourself. It's more of it as you should know that this is going on in your life because you have all these people. My brother was a doctor in India and he used to work in a village, right? And let me tell you, he would show me photos of the patients he would take care of in those rural villages. These people had no idea what they were going through. They wouldn't go to the doctor even though they were in a life and death situation because they're like, oh, it's just a small sore, it'll go away. No, you have a terrible kind of cancer.
Oh gosh.
So it was a daily thing for him. And the worst thing is that people do not go to doctors just because they can't afford it. My friend of mine, he broke both his legs in an accident. It cost him $60,000
Oh my god.
just to take care of it with health insurance. The health insurance covered most of it.
Wow.
But it was expensive. His life, if he hadn't like sought for treatment, he would have lost. He would have been a cripple for life. He couldn't have walked. He walks now, mashallah. But like, the problem is that these people don't go to doctors because they can't afford it. If the government allows at least these checkups, you know what you can do.
Yeah, and look, and I think ours, they afford us that information, for the most part, if we can afford it. Interestingly enough, but yeah, here's the thing: when you talk about regulated, mandated kind of rules, I kind of thought we were talking sort of laws here.
Yeah,
where it's like you have to, if you reach a certain, I don't know, body mass index, I don't know anything like this, but then you have to prove that you've worked out or something like that. You know what I mean?
It doesn't really have to be so extreme, I'd say.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
It only has to be educational for the people, because as long as the people are aware of it, because if right now, if I was someone who could pass out a law, I'm not saying the president can, I'm just someone who can pass out a law right now. If I passed out that you cannot eat McDonald's anymore, right? And I give no reason that people don't know why I'm doing this. It doesn't even fall under the healthy lifestyle thing. Everybody would revolt against it, right? They'd go like, no, like the probationary law, right?
In the name of the McRib.
Yeah.
Never.
And bring back the Szechuan sauce. So anyways, but that's the point. If you educate your people, if you give them a chance to know what is good for them and what is bad for them, then they'll take the initiative to take care of themselves.
I think you're so optimistic. I don't know about that.
No, but then it also is because most of the time why people are cynics on these matters is because they can't afford it.
Okay, that's so then would the solution be to provide people with like stipends for healthy lifestyle choices?
But see,
I think somebody said, is everybody going to have a gym membership?
No, that's funny enough. You don't have to be fit to be healthy. You just need.
That's true.
You just need to like. I give the example of my friend who would call himself overweight, but he can do backflips and all those gymnastic moves. It's fancy, really fancy. Yeah. But that was the point. You don't have to be like thin to be fit, is what I'm saying. Basically, gym membership seems to be a bit far off, but what I am saying is that what's important is to educate people and give them the chance to find out on their own instead of mandating laws that they won't understand and they will revolt against.
Yeah, okay.
Those kids in France know why they eat these foods, because it's good for them. That's why they don't revolt against it.
Okay, fair enough. But there are plenty of people who do know better and nonetheless act discordingly. You don't have to be thin to be so fit. You know that song? It's an 80s song? Okay.
No.
Anyways.
Clearly.
It was a satire.
But you have people who would like do drugs or make poor choices despite knowing these are poor choices. But at the end of the day, they're adults and they can make these choices on their own.
Yeah, and we could just say Jack Fletcher by name here, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
It's like right to life. If they don't want to pursue a healthy lifestyle, the government does not have the right to mandate that upon them.
It's funny is consider the role of the doctor, as you say. So I think this was an episode of Scrubs. The role of the doctor isn't to convince you to change your life. The role is just to treat you after whatever decisions you've made. So if you're told smoking will give you lung cancer, the doctor provides that information. You continue to smoke, you develop lung cancer, you come back to the hospital. The doctor isn't there to judge you. The doctor's there to serve you, to help you, to continue go on living, so that you can make your choices as you would have them. In an interesting way, you can contend that maybe the primacy of rights mentality is such that it's life for the sake of your autonomy. and the quality of life could be commensurate to the degree to which you have complete autonomy. And the role of the government then is less to tell you how to live
It's
or
more to
command you.
suggest a way.
Yeah, to suggest and give you opportunities,
But that's the
within the
actual
matrix of
role.
possibilities.
Yeah, but that's the actual role of the government. That's the point of the government. It's not supposed to govern over your lives and take away your rights, but it's to promote self-government. Given that you can take care of yourself, you can be independent, and you can take care of your property, your liberty, and your life. That government has to provide ways that you can do this.
That's true, but only if you so choose. I mean, some people don't necessarily want to do those things.
No, but but if they choose,
It's their prerogative.
yeah, if they choose to be governed by the government, then so be it. It's their choice. Literally, the government is all about choice.
Well,
And
really?
okay, no, the government should an ideal government should be about promoting choice.
You mean the Student Government Association?
Yeah. By the way, promotion. If you want to bring change to the college, please do drop by on Mondays. The student government can provide ways.
There you go. And what's your role in student government?
Vice president,
That is correct. And what's your role in the philosophy club?
communications officer.
Excellent, very good. And what's your role in the introduction to philosophy honors section?
I'm a lowly peasant
No,
plebeian.
you're the conversation sparker.
Oh yeah,
That's what you are.
I'm a Hegelian hater. I swear, I love Hegelian. It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense that I hate it. Like I want to refuse.
Yes. Well, maybe you'll have reasons later as we continue to proceed.
Yeah.
Look at some of Hegel's critiquers. I mean, here's the thing, ultimately, for me. I feel as though there's two ways to look at it. Again, the government can, if you wanted to go down this hypothetical road as we've been doing, the government can strongly suggest ways of how you should live because they think, well, you're clearly not pulling it off yourself so well. And if you were healthier, then you'd be in a better position to have more choices, to have a stronger, more robust sense of autonomy. I mean, how free can you really be if, you are fighting diseases or especially health related, especially self-inflicted? On the other hand, not necessarily the case. I mean, yeah, if I'm choosing to allow myself to fall into this condition to deteriorate, then let me do it. And it's not, if I want your help, I'll ask your help for your help.
Yeah, but isn't that
Two
the
different ways.
idea we're pursuing? That, like, at least they're trying to promote is that health should be a choice, not a mandation. But
Yeah.
as long as you are aware of the consequences. Because if you're not aware, then you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. If without your health, you have nothing.
Yeah. It's again, I want to emphasize on the word rational faculties. As long as you have your rationality about you, then you are capable of making these decisions. Why do you think you have the people who contemplate suicide? Why do you think they're sent to therapists? It's because they're trying to understand. As long as you have your rational faculties, and it's not because of a mental disability, then it should be your choice. Because if it's a disability, then it's an actual health issue. And it cannot, at that point, you are not capable of taking care of your faculties.
All right, well, daddy's away, ladies and gentlemen.
Please don't say that again.
Let's get crazy. Let's let's order a bunch of pizzas. Put it on the KDUX tab. Yeah, extra cheese, stuffed crust.
What is the KDX tab?
I don't know. I don't even know if they have one. Okay. I think Jack is severely overestimating my technical abilities here, so we will find out.
You have terrible technical capabilities.
Yeah, we need a new communications officer for the philosophy club. Actually, you're right. I have no instincts when it comes to technology.
You don't even know who Harry Potter is.
I don't. Should
Muggle.
we plug that? My keynote address for the SGA? No, the Texas Junior College Student Government Association.
Yeah, just call it TJCSGA.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah.
Well, we'll plug that next time because we still got a ways away before
Yeah.
that. Well, do you want to just wrap it up now? Then, do you have any final points? We're approaching an hour here.
Yeah, I mean, the question was, should we have laws that mandate a healthy lifestyle? And I feel like we concluded with the fact that laws that would restrict you from eating something or force you to eat something seems to be almost unnecessary or irrational. But we have laws that educate you about your health choices and inform you about how your health is going seems to be more rational in terms of getting people to care about themselves, or at least pay attention to themselves.
I think that's fair, and I don't think it necessarily requires us to go down this sort of dystopian future where it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
It seems a lot more troublesome to enforce food stamps, and keeping up to date. Like, okay, you can only eat this many burgers, rather than informing like this many burgers is going to cause this to your health. Most people don't know this.
yeah, I suppose that's true. And it's funny considering, like, let's pretend it's like 41-38, and I'm like, 34, male, Mr. Manzi, you've made 4 unhealthy decisions this week. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. I don't think it ever gets. But the question becomes, well, regulating healthy lifestyles. How far can you take that? Well, you lack companionship. That is not healthy. You know what I mean? Like stuff like
Baymax. Okay, I get it.
I don't know what that is, but sure.
It's a cartoon character.
Oh, okay.
He informs you about your heart, like your neural signals in your heart, like, oh my gosh, you're going through depression. What you should do is contact your friends, and contact list empty. No,
Oh, that's funny. Jeez.
no, he doesn't actually say that, but that's what would happen to me.
That's not true. I'm sure somebody. Anyway, folks. Likes her. Well, we're over our time here. There's Pronk Pops starting next. So let's wrap things up. You are listening to KDUX. You'd think I'd never done that before. You are listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. Let's see if I get the second part memorized. Views expressed in this show are, what does it say there? Look directly into the camera to create intimacy.
No.
Views expressed on this show are our own, unless otherwise stated, and do not reflect the opinions, digressions, tangentials, dental records of Richland College, the DCCCD. He's going to make me record this disclaimer over. KDUX Web Radio, or everything having to do with the Richland College Philosophy Club. Actually, no, that's exactly what it is supposed to represent. We have here Haya. She is the communications officer. My name is Professor Jeff Manzi. I'm the faculty sponsor. Talk about rational faculties. I teach philosophy. Maybe I'm the most rational faculty. Am I right? I'll leave you with that. Ladies and gentlemen, Dallas, Texas, enjoy the weekend. It's a Friday. It's 5:15. Here we go. Rush hour traffic's going to be a delight.
You chose the timing.
And speaking of which, no, I did not. This was the only. Okay, we should say this. Typically, we record live on Tuesdays. Like 3 times a semester, if that. I mean, I think it happened 0 times last semester. KDUX has to sort of travel as a team. Every single radio show on Tuesday gets canceled. And the KDUX producers here and engineers, they have to travel and they broadcast the... essentially, it's like the town hall meeting for the district. And that happened... It just so happened to happen this Tuesday. So we were kind of scrambling, like, looking at the calendar. Is there any free slot at all, like, for the rest of the week? And the only one was late on a Friday. And so obviously a lot of us couldn't quite make it. I had to put my grandma down in order to be here.
That is dark.
I'm just joking. I love you, grandma. At any rate, so yeah, thanks for listening. Uche is probably having Whataburger for the 40th time this week. Speaking of mandated healthy
Gosh,
lifestyles.
please tell him that.
So that's why we're recording. It's an odd one. This was fun though. This was nice. There was once during season 1 where it was just me and like the vice president, I wanted to say, of Philosophy Club, and it was probably our least viewed video, but it was a really good conversation, like this one was. Hiya, great to know you.
I feel like I'm going away forever.
You're not. You're coming back because you weren't at the season premiere because there were so many people here, and you politely bowed out because everybody wanted to be part.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think it's gonna be possible. I would just walk out every year.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so fun is that sometimes there's 11. I think there were literally 12 people there, and sometimes there's but 2, and that's the joy of the Philosophy Club Radio Hour. And I think you guys have plans on making the guest list, so to speak, a bit more structured moving forward, where there's going to be a certain amount of officers, a certain amount of members. You
And
know,
the
who-
guests that you would bring in.
yes,
if you
and
wish.
then a guest to my discretion.
Mhm.
Kaylin, you're out, buddy. I'm just joking.
Oh, God.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody. And any last words? Anything we need to plug? Love Day is happening this Wednesday. I think Philosophy Club is going to be involved with the Intercultural Women's Society.
Possibly. I still have to get in touch with Nabia, even though I just met her.
Yes, yeah. See what the deal is with that. We got some the film PHILM film Philosophy and Film Philosophy Club film series. It looks like we're doing. I'm gonna say it. It looks like we're gonna be premiering or screening rather. I Heart Huckabees, a movie that came out when I was an undergrad. Looking towards late February for that. We have the date settled on our end. We're waiting for final confirmation. Should be a lot of fun. Please come out for that. It should be good. And then, of course, I will be delivering the keynote address for the Regional Student Government Association. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to have fun with it. Boy, oh boy, speaking to millennials about leadership. It's going to be great. Leadership, where there's a captain and a all right, sorry. I don't want to give away too
Let's
much
talk
on
about the
my
rule of
speech.
two.
All right, y'all. I'm rambling here. Have a good one. Hiya. Bye.
Oh, God.
And
That's
we'll-
not original.
And don't forget to think about it.